Welcome to Thinking Women,
the intelligent conversation show.
And we're on episode 2 of our special International Women's Day
We
show.
certainly are. And it's just such a pleasure to have you with us and our wonderful guests. So last show we talked a little bit about how International Women's Day began. And for this show, we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that went on 70s and 80s, because things changed a bit.
Yeah, it became quite a political movement in the 70s and 80s. And there was lots of marches. And I think it was in this era that March the 8th, which we all know as International Women's Day, became set in stone.
Yeah, that's right. And there was a lot of just campaigning for equal pay, equal rights and the prevention of violence against women. So it really was the start of a new era. And we've got a poster of the 1975 International Women's Day.
Which I love this, you know, women's struggles all over the world, you know, solidarity, it is political, and I personally, I love that. It was a political movement then. And then in 1975, it was adopted by the UN, and that's when it became truly international, I think. Yeah.
And we've actually got some photos or a photograph of one of the marches that took place. There we go, March the 8th.
Yeah. We don't march now. Maybe we should go back to marching.
No.
But we'll look at that in show 3 because things
yes, we will.
Everything changes as the decades go on.
So for today, we've got Claire Wilson on the show, who's a photographer and storyteller. And I'll also be interviewing Kaz from the House of Margaux, which is an ethical clothing company.
And I've got a fantastic artist, Emma Digerud-White, and I'm also I'm all about the art on this one, Sophie and Alice from Penwith Gallery. So a great show lined up for you.
Enjoy, and we'll speak to you soon.
I'm now joined by Sophie and Alice. Welcome to Thinking Women. And these ladies are from Penwith Gallery, probably the most prominent art gallery in Cornwall, should we say?
Definitely up there, isn't it? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And why would you say that? I mean, it's got a huge history.
Yeah, I mean, so we've been around since the 60s in the heart of St Ives. So the Penwith Society of Arts was formed in 1949. So we've definitely got a huge sort of historical presence in St Ives, which is,
And I think being run by artists makes it unique. So there's no sort of curator or director, there's a board and a group that run it. So it's always representing the local community, and I think that's what makes it so exciting and diverse. You just don't know who's going to come in and exhibit because it's open to anyone showing their work as associates to begin with.
And that's what it's all about. Is it really a community-based place? Is that the thrust of it, essentially?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we have sort of up to 250 artists that we exhibit from all across Cornwall. So, yeah, we meet a huge amount of creative people, all ages, all backgrounds. And yeah, they're always popping in and having a chat, and yeah, it's just a great place to be involved in, and yeah, nice to be supporting local talent.
And is the art scene in Cornwall as vibrant as it ever was?
I think it's picking up again. I think that there's been moments where, like, the art history of St Ives has become quite a similar way of working. I think the modernists that came here, like Hepworth and Ben Nicholson, really brought the spotlight onto St Ives in a huge way. And I think there's a lot of contemporary artists now really honouring their own practice and not sort of just regurgitating like modern art that has already been done, but like really honouring what they're doing. And I think that's quite exciting, something proud to be part of. And we're certainly trying to challenge that and bring more and younger artists
new opportunities.
New opportunities. We do the Young Penwith Artists annual exhibition now, which gives a young person under 35 in Cornwall the opportunity to show for a month at the gallery. So that's been very cool.
I mean, to have that step up and that ability to exhibit your work when you're starting out is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's just to hopefully give someone that boost and that sort of confidence to think, I can do this, I can make it as an artist, I can do what I love, and hopefully it'll give them a little bit of exposure. and just a sort of stepping stone.
We had it last year, so we exhibited our work as young Penwith artists, so we helped initiate
kicked it off.
The project.
Oh, fantastic. And so you're part of the structure of the gallery, but you're also exhibiting artists as well.
Exactly.
And so you started that project off. Was it your idea, or
it was the society's idea, the Penwith Society's idea. So they approached us, gave us the opportunity to kind of kick it off and then take it from there. So we're kind of taking lead on it from now on, and so it's great opportunity.
And we're doing these series of shows in celebration of International Women's Day. So I do have to ask about the role of women in art in the 21st century, because I was just thinking, there was a book, I think it was a book or it was a list that came out a year or two ago, and it was the 100 best artists in the world, and there was about 1 or 2 women in there. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do find that,
and it was
only
so
a handful.
and it was so and names that we'd all heard of were missing. So have things changed? How are you finding?
Things are changing. I studied Gombrich's book of the story of art, and when I was 16, 17 reading this, there were no women, like it was not. And Katie Hessel's recently put a book out, which is the story of art without men, and that's been a huge, already selling out. Like, it's an amazing book, and I think more and more women. I mean, even at the gallery, we've had more female members selling the last few months than any men, and that's been really exciting. Just watching people connecting with the art. I think, regardless of gender, just giving more women the opportunity to be given that opportunity,
given that voice.
Like us, 2 women to initiate the young artists, young Penwith artists.
But the art itself, is it gender relevant? Does it matter if a painting or a piece of sculpture is done by a woman or a man? Is it relevant?
It shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter. It can matter, but I don't think it should mean anything really. It should always be about the art and sort of how that makes you feel, and nothing to do with who it's made by, if they've sort of got a big name or not. It shouldn't, or gender.
I think as long as the opportunities are open to both, then it's how the art makes you feel. I think it's when opportunities have been in the past closed off, and there's a history of that creates some kind of difficulty or animosity in feelings of how that might make a woman feel in an environment, being given an opportunity that she might not have before. I think is quite cool, very exciting, and definitely tables are turning, I think.
I do wonder if women can be inspired by different things to men to create their artwork, whether it's writing or whether it's painting. And we've certainly talked on these shows to some women who've been driven to create through kind of sexual violence and things like that, which are definitely probably largely things that only women would experience. And it feels like there are outlets now that will show those pieces of work where maybe in the past that they wouldn't, or maybe the woman felt she shouldn't be able to, or doesn't have that platform to show. But I think that's definitely changing. I think people are much more sort of open to any kind of art, whether it's sort of performance or installation. I think they're kind of,
Art's therapeutic, so I think whatever you go through, expressing something authentically you matters. So personal experience and female experience is a huge subject for women. Like it is, and it is very different to male. So it's important having that on the map in a big way, and the spotlight being there. I know Barbara Hepworth, who we have work of at the gallery and was a founding member. She made work about pregnancy, and she had triplets unbeknown until she birthed them. So that journey of maternity and motherhood and pregnancy was all in her oval forms and things. So that was a huge movement, I think, for women she was part of, and we still are.
And radical at the time. Yeah, absolutely.
And even painting out in the landscape. Sophie paints in plein air, so she'll go out and
love to experience
outside.
The landscape, really sort of get that feeling of energy and sort of harness the power of the landscape and get all of that onto the canvas and just let loose. So I think it's all part of the experience, and it's all part of the feeling, and hopefully that comes across like within a painting that I'll make, that sort of feeling of energy. That's what I'm always trying to
and knowing
achieve.
it was against the law for women to paint outside at one point.
Oh.
Like women weren't allowed to be artists and paint outside.
So you're doing a radical thing.
I always see it as a radical thing. Yeah, I'm like, it's phenomenal. Like that women were painting inside, like, and they were kept. If they were, it was a hobby. You know, it wasn't a career. And I mean, I'm talking like, you know, Victorian era, sort of pre then. But
and even in the 50s, I mean, some artists would find out their wives were doing a bit of painting here and there, and they would be completely shut down. Like, it's terrifying, really. But
and
things have changed.
You
We're
say
very
Victorian
lucky.
times, but in some ways, it's not like in the 50s. It's not really that long ago.
No.
That's true.
So you know, things have changed definitely.
Yeah.
But it's women like yourselves who have to keep fighting to keep the change going. And so tell me about your exhibits, because you're exhibiting artists at Penwith. I want to know about what inspires both of you. Obviously, we know you paint outside, but what's your actual? Is there one thing that inspires you, or is it a multitude of things?
I mean, if I had to pick like one thing, it would be the ever-changing nature of the landscape and how you only going to get that glimpse of a scene once with that light, or you know, that colour combination, anything like that. What I'm inspired by is that it's just a fleeting moment. Just want to capture that. Something about that moment excites something within me, and that's what I'm passionate about. But yeah, Alice, your work is
quite different.
Completely different. And
we've got some examples here.
And it's very, groundbreaking, you know, pushing boundaries.
Paint portraiture, and I look into very personal experiences. So I'm responding to, I guess, it's about releasing trauma at times, or difficult things I've gone through, being stabbed in the back, or a bad breakup, or miscarriage, you know, really difficult experiences that I've gone through that I feel is important to put light on and say this is acceptable. And not everything needs to be pretty, not everything needs to look good, but it needs to be accepted and understood. And I think that's when people, the more they can accept of themselves and their own experiences, they can move more easily through life, knowing that they're not judged. And for me to upload, like, give myself the freedom, I hope it does that for others. So I try very hard to paint my truth. And that's a very personal document. It's like a diary.
But I think that's the beauty of art, isn't it? Art and literature, that, you know, if you are brave enough to be the one to put it on canvas or on the page, it will resonate with somebody somewhere. And that conversation, that difficult conversation, people will not feel alone, and they will start the conversation. So, you know, carry on being brave, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So our next guest is the lovely Claire Wilson, who is a photographer and filmmaker. So welcome, Claire. Thank you so much for being on the show. And you've got a very specific way of doing photography and branding. So tell us about that.
Okay. Well, I guess the first thing would be what I do is, as you said, the brand photography. What is that? It's really about helping people tell their stories. So it's communicating, you know, who you are, what your values are, to your audience. Because, you know, if they don't see that, then you're just going to look like everybody else.
And some of the clients you work with, we were talking earlier, they're not just products, are they? So they're more sort of intangible things. So you were telling me about a project you've been doing with Truro Cathedral, which is more than bricks and mortar. So tell us a little bit about Truro Cathedral and the work you've been doing with them, and the stories that you've been branding for them. Yeah, so I've been working with the Truro Cathedral for probably the last 7 years. And where it was really, really interesting when we started, most of their photograph bank that they had was about the building, which of course, when you think about Truro Cathedral, it's a building. But you know, their story is so much more than that, because actually Truro Cathedral wouldn't exist if it wasn't for all the people that are involved in keeping it going. All the people that work behind the scenes, as well as the people that work in the limelight, if you like. So my job there has really been about helping them with the photography and videography,
is to show the world, who they are and what they do.
Yeah, and it's quite a tricky thing to do, isn't it? When you can't just take a photograph of something tangible. You've got to really dig deeper, haven't you? Which is amazing. And another project that you were telling me about was the mines. So
yeah,
you went down the mine.
I did. So I went down a mine. I actually have claustrophobia, so it was a bit of a challenge. But every photographer needs a personal project. Because it keeps our creativity going. And I thought Cornish mines, because I grew up, as it turns out, one of the most heavily mined and also heavily contaminated areas in Cornwall. And I was kind of going back there as an adult, and I suddenly thought, oh, I could do a photo project on this. And I didn't want to do it. Everybody does it above ground. I wanted to be different. I wanted to go underground. So claustrophobia,
technical challenges, I would imagine as well.
And technical challenges.
In the dark, basically.
Keeping my kit, I've definitely lost one lens due to the mould that grows inside your lens, because it's damp under there. Keeping it safe is a challenge. Keeping yourself safe and not panicking. I've only panicked once in a mine, but yeah.
And that's such an inspiring story, because it is, we love on Thinking Women to sort of showcase people getting out of their comfort zone and doing things that are not natural for them. And going down, doing that is brilliant. It's so inspiring to just do something that is out of your comfort zone, but you do it and you get on with it. And you wrote a book, is that right?
Yes, so there is a book. It's Hidden in Plain Sight, and it's a photographic journey into Cornish mines. But yeah, so I've always been taught, if you want to do something, just do it. Think about the logistics later.
So you're truly in love with your industry.
I am.
Yeah, truly.
I am.
So how represented are women in your line of work,
okay,
in your art?
Sadly, in commercial photography, there is only 10% are actually women. And that's a figure that I looked up when I started, and it hasn't changed. I don't know why it hasn't changed. It needs to change. Yeah. Women have, a unique way of seeing the world, and it's time that actually we started sharing it and capturing it for other people.
Yeah. Do you think that? Do you think there is a female eye versus a male eye?
I think
in topics.
I do. I think so. I think we have a different way of seeing things. It's really interesting, like the theory that men are based on the sun. So, the 9 to 5, they wake up in the morning, it's a fresh day, they go to bed, they wake up the next day, it's a fresh day. Women, we work around the moon. So that whole kind of process actually changes the way that we think, that we feel our way through stories and things like that. It's totally different.
Amazing. So when you're doing your portraiture, 'cause that's another angle, how do you get to know your subjects? And are they largely women?
They are actually the majority of women, and I actually find, and it's heartbreaking really, is that not many people are comfortable in front of the camera. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, I wouldn't want to go into every single in-depth thing that I feel that frustrates me. But when it comes down to it, what I really do when I'm photographing people is to get to know them, because actually I might have a device in front of me, but actually if I want to capture them, if I want them to relax, it's actually kind of speaking to them and getting to know who they are, and that's how you actually capture story. That's how you capture people. It's the best way.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would say that's a feminine skill as well, being able to kind of sit with a person, get into a person's psyche. Whereas I think maybe a man taking a photo, this is I'm being very stereotypical here, but I suspect sometimes a male photographer will be like, this is how I'm going to take a picture of you, and this is how I will represent you. Yeah. Whereas if I wonder, the way you work, you go with your client and really pull out them.
Absolutely. What I try and do is work intuitively to the person. So there are different ways that you can approach photography. You can see the perfect spot to photograph somebody and you go, yes, and if they do this pose, they're going to look absolutely fantastic. I know this. But if you're looking at it intuitively, then that person might not be comfortable in that position or that pose, and you're not going to get the shot because their face is going to look awkward. So technically, it's going to be a great shot. The actual person isn't going to like it. So actually that intuitive approach, which is a more feminine skill, I think, that's the one which I think helps people like their photographs.
And this is such a lovely thing to talk about, actually, because doing these shows, and one of the things that Lou and I try to do in the green room, and hopefully you had this experience, is, you know, we have a chat, and we spend more time chatting in there than we do on the sofa, actually, I think, at times, don't we? But it makes a huge difference.
It does. You have to get to know people. It's not just a series of questions, is
No.
it?
And there's so much in life where we're rushing and we're just deciding. So getting to know somebody, especially if you're working in an art form, is vital. So more of that, I say.
Yeah. And what are you doing to bring on new sort of young female artists coming into your field? What work are you doing on that?
Yeah, so I take on work experience students. So each year, obviously COVID, we weren't doing that, but I particularly like to work with young women who want to go into the industry. I like to, do informal mentoring with them to show that it is possible.
Yeah,
it is possible.
So,
so
important, isn't it?
Going blank.
No, it's just so lovely to have you sharing, you know, your experience of what you're doing. It's really nice. And you've got a rebrand as well, apparently.
Yes, so
Secret squirrel though.
It is
You can't
secret.
say much, apparently.
I can't say much.
Oh, go on. We like a secret on Pink and Women.
So when I started my business, which was nearly 8 years ago, there were a lot of Claire Wilson photographers. It's a it is a common name, and I was looking. It's like, oh, well, every website been taken for Claire Wilson photography. So it's like, what should I do? I was like, and I was in a bit of a hurry at the time. I'll use my a life motto, which is live, life, explore. So that's why it's LLE photography.
Oh,
but of course, then people actually phone me, and they're like, "Can I speak to please?" I'm like, no, it's definitely not a name.
No.
So in actual fact, and as I've grown, you know, from where I used to do photography for absolutely everything, I've now narrowed down that view to the brand story and obviously the film. The name and the brand actually has to change and evolve with that. So I'm at that really exciting stage where I don't have to be anymore.
It'd be something else. Well, we look forward to seeing that launch, which you said is on May the 4th.
We've got something. It's going to be around that time.
Around that time.
There's something
okay.
quite exciting that I've been working on in the project.
Okay, well, we'll look out for that. And all the details of Claire's website are on our social media, and obviously we've put them on the show. So thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you.
It's been so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
The best way, I think, to introduce my next guest, Emma Digerud-White, is to use a sentence from your website which says, "My work is how I fight to get out what is buried deep within." What a sentence from an artist. Please go from there, Emma.
I'm an artist. I work with paint and also digital, and I'm kind of incorporating all of those things together. And I'm essentially obsessed with humans and capturing emotions and feelings, and how interested in how we sense people, basically. So not necessarily just the visual, that when we look at somebody, but how are we sensing that person? All those things that we not always so tuned into, and capturing that for myself and also for others to see.
And you're happy to use yourself as a subject.
Yes.
Is that unusual, particularly for a woman? Is that unusual, or is that more common as for a female artist?
I don't know. I feel like I've gone kind of back and forth with that. But I've come to a point recently where I think I know my feelings and I know what I'm thinking in a specific moment. And it's the thoughts and feelings of the moment that I'm trying to capture. Mm-hmm. So that's why I use myself a lot, because I understand myself. And as I've gone on to exhibit my work and show more people, they see that too. And
they see it reflected back.
Yeah.
Well, presumably that's other women.
Yes, a lot. A lot of the time it's women, and men also. But I think sometimes my work is a bit confronting, and maybe some people are a bit shocked as to what those thoughts are, or maybe they don't think that that could be happening if somebody's looking or behaving a certain way.
Do you set out to shock, or is that a kind of motivation for you?
No, I don't really set out to do anything. I just paint or create what I'm feeling, and that is maybe, I think, there is some shock value in it, but it's because it's a woman communicating some feelings that...
Oh, how shocking. Yeah. A woman communicates feelings.
But also...
Well, it's quite a feminist... It's quite a feminist statement, and a lot of people shouldn't be shocked by our normal emotions, but are.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what drove me to do the anger.
Oh yes, let's talk about, because I was thinking, the female experience of anger is the project that you're touching on. Now, anger to me is, of all the emotions that you might think of for women, I can imagine people going, oh, let's talk about sadness, or let's talk, but it's powerful. Anger.
Yeah, and I think it is often unexplored, and as soon as you say women and anger, people have an immediate thought, and sometimes that's a bit conflicting, and especially if you bring into that like mother and anger and woman, and then my project is exploring that. And I guess you have to start with what you actually think anger is. And often women that I speak to, friends and in a broader sense, immediately have like a negative association with the word anger, that it might be lashing out at somebody or doing something that's out of control, or related to like a certain time, but it's never really thought of as like, yes, like it's great to be angry and it's a powerful emotion, and let's express it and find a way to get it out and use the energy for change.
And how often we feel angry, because I think a lot of women do feel angry a lot more than we're allowed to actually say we do, which is very misogynistic and patriarchal and blah blah. But by actually doing this project, you are giving a voice and saying, let's just do it and make it normal.
Let's just talk about it and explore it. And so it started with my own face, because I had just a really powerful angry explosion, and that I really was like, I've never seen my own face really angry.
No,
I've never
when
really.
You're saying that, I'm thinking, I don't think I've seen mine. Well,
and so I went upstairs and I looked in the mirror, and I just took photos of myself, like in that moment, with the rage. Yeah. And I was just thinking, how have I got to this age, like nearly 40, and I'm not familiar with this feeling. And then I've always been like, oh no, I wish I hadn't done that. But why did I get angry? And what can that tell me? So it started with my face. And then as I spoke to friends, it was really like a sort of moment of going, actually, you're right, I don't know my face, or I feel bad if I get angry. So then I started the project of asking people to send me their photo of them with their face angry, and then
mine's incoming.
Please do send it in. It's ongoing.
Oh, brilliant.
So,
No, it's such a I was just looking at the pictures, and I was just like, this is so powerful. Yeah. And it's just that switch. It's that little switch between going, okay, let's explore a different emotion that's strong. And I think, when we feminize everything, then we're not really showing all sides of what being a woman is.
And we've got plenty of reasons to be angry. So we should at least be allowed to show it.
And you've got plenty of reasons to be very happy, because one of the amazing things that's happened in the last year, I think it was, that you've been on Grace and Perry's Art Club.
Yes.
twice, I think.
Yes.
Not once, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
but twice.
Yes.
So how did that happen, and how do you feel about that? I mean, obviously a great accolade, but...
Yeah, I feel super excited. And it was actually, it was a year ago on Valentine's Day, so just gone, that I painted a picture for my partner, which was I Love Your Brain. And yeah, I entered it into the art club, and yeah, I was actually putting my girls to sleep, and I had a text message from my mum saying, "You've just been on Grayson's art club." I was like, "What?" So I ran down and managed to catch up so I could continue.
And they didn't let you
watching
know?
it.
The
No,
actual
not
producers
no.
didn't? No, okay.
No, because I wasn't. It was just my piece. So each week Grayson picks his top 3 for the theme, and this theme was love. So yeah, I was in his top 3 for love.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah,
and
it's
then
very
what
exciting.
happened with the second one? That was what picture was that one?
So the second one is called Reflection Disconnect. And it's me combining digital and paint and photography all in the same piece, which is what I do often. And so it's exploring me looking at my own reflection and feeling disconnected from that. And my daughter is watching me as I'm looking in my reflection.
And moving picture, I found that one actually.
Yeah, it happened really naturally that she was with me as I was trying to take the photo, and I just thought that this kind of says it all, because I can't take the photo because she's here with me, but that's so reflective of wider society and my feeling of as an individual, but also women in general often being observed, and you feel observed a lot of the time, and that can really cause some anxiety and problems. But also I wanted to include her in the final piece, because the main reason, I guess, I'm trying to explore this, why do I find it hard to look at my reflection? I don't want to feel like that, and I don't want her to feel like that, so I want to fix it for myself and for her.
For future generations of women, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a lot, it's working on a lot of layers, that one. But yeah, it's an emotional, it's definitely an emotional one.
No, I did definitely feel something,
Yeah.
sort of touched on different layers.
Yeah.
And that's what's so amazing about your artwork for women. So what's for the future as a final, what are your plans now?
So I'm currently on a year-long course with the Newlyn School of Art, which is a mentoring course, and that will...
You are the mentor?
No, I'm being mentored.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm being mentored, and at the end we'll have a kind of group show at Tremenere Sculpture Gardens, and that is kind of showing me and all the other artists how to be artists, I guess, how to be a professional artist and put on shows. And I want to exhibit and take my work out into the wider world for people to see and connect with.
Absolutely. Well, it deserves to be out there, Emma.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming.
You're
on.
welcome.
Fascinating.
Thank you for inviting me.
So our next guest is the lovely Cassie Douglas, who's the founder of the House of Margaux, which is an ethical clothing brand for children. So welcome, Cassie.
Thank you for having me here today.
That's okay. And thank you for bringing these beautiful pieces of clothing here that we're going to talk about. And you're another lockdown success story, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. So tell us about what happened to you and what you were doing before and what you ended up doing.
Well, I haven't always worked in this industry. Before making children's clothing, I was a dental nurse who was furloughed in the pandemic.
Okay.
And I guess before I'd always wondered, like, if I had the time, if I didn't have to work, and I still had a salary, what would I do? So I borrowed a sewing machine off my friend because I just had my little girl, Darcy, and I made her a romper. So I found a pattern online, bought some fabric, and I can't tell you how much of the wrong fabric I bought before I found the right stuff that I needed to sew with. So I spent weeks like making her outfits, showing my friends photos. And then I guess I did it every single day throughout lockdown, and I absolutely loved it.
And had you sewn before?
I had never, ever sewn
Wow.
before. So actually, funny story, one day the cotton ran out on the sewing machine, and it was the bobbin underneath, but I didn't know anything about sewing machines. So my friend, via video call, had to talk me through, well, basically how to change the cotton on the sewing machine, which is laughable now, 3 years later, when my
But
business...
I just love these stories of people that have just found a total different direction in lockdown. And I mean, the clothes are stunning, as you can see. They're absolutely gorgeous. So what's happening now? Are you still making the clothes at home? Or
So I started
where
off...
have things moved
Wow,
to?
that is a good question. I started off at the kitchen table where in lockdown, and then after being there for about 6 months, we moved me to my spare bedroom, because then I started to buy more fabric, I had more equipment, and this is when I started to think this is something I would like to do permanently. And then from that we've moved. My husband gave me his garage. Well, built it.
He gave up his man
He
shed.
gave up his man
Wow.
shed, which sounds... I know. So we have now moved House of Margaux into a unit in the back garden. That is where we are at the moment. And in there is myself. Another lady works for me full-time in there, helps with the sewing side of it. And then I've got another lady who also sews for me. So it is no longer just myself. I have some seamstresses that help me.
What a wonderful success story. And I know, I mean, yesterday we were actually out at the Eden Project, and I was in their shop, and you distribute there, don't you? My little girls went straight over to your stuff and started looking at it. Yeah, and I mean, this print here, Girl Power, it's fantastic, and it's just so relevant for International Women's Day.
Thank
for
you.
The little ones.
Yeah, I love this print. This, I would say, is easily our bestseller. And then
Right.
off the back of the Girl Power, we wanted to, I think what we're going to work towards, especially with our future prints, is anything that's got a really empowering message on it for children to wear. I think, and I don't see much of it in the market, and I think it's so important. One of our other ones is Be Kind. That is one of, like, everybody loves that print. And it's so true. Just be kind, like, shower kindness around like confetti. So that one, the Girl Power, anything that's got a lovely print on it. We Rise by Lifting Others is another popular print.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
And it's so much better than, I mean, of course, the kids love Disney, don't they? And they like to have their Frozen pyjamas and their LOL pyjamas and so on. But this stuff, it's stunning. And is it girls and boys? So
yeah, we have, we try, obviously the Girl Power, you can put boys in it. We try and be gender neutral. So my girl and boy both wear this print. We have this in a legging as well. And the same with the one on the end. So yeah, we try and be unisex, everything unisex, but this is a really popular print as well.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah,
and what about branching into adults' clothes?
Well, me and my husband and the kids went to a few festivals last year. So my husband said before we go, please can you make me some leggings, some adult leggings? So I did in this print.
Oh, amazing.
I know, and we do it in a blue as well. And he wore them for the whole summer at festivals. We have never had, we were stopped constantly because my son and daughter had matching. So I think it's on the cards.
Oh, I mean, I would definitely wear probably a dress.
Yeah.
In that material.
Yeah.
Actually, all three of those, I would be all over wearing something in.
I think it's something we're going to work. The thing is, I was saying to you earlier, I started this business in lockdown to spend more time with my children. I've got so many ideas to grow the business, but at the moment my children are so little, I won't get this time back with them. So I want to put a pause on some of the ideas that will take over my time and work on them in a few years' time and just enjoy. The business is going well. I spend a lot of time on it, but also I want to spend time with the kids while they're small.
And that's so important as
Yeah,
well,
it
to get that
is.
balance right.
And it's hard to find that balance. So I'm trying to just put the brakes on some of my ideas at the moment.
But it's lovely to have that inspiration. And I think as a sort of a mum with young children, to find that bit of yourself, especially when they're, tiny.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing to do. So,
Thank you.
it's been lovely hearing your story. We've put
Thank
details of the House of Margaux's website on the show, so you can order online, I assume?
Yeah, order online, yeah.
Yeah, fabulous. And thank you so much. It's been lovely to
you.
hear about your story.
Thank you, it's been lovely being here today.
Well, there you go, another fantastic show from Thinking Women.
It certainly was. And we've got to say as well, thank you to Cultivator, Cornwall who have made this show possible and been fantastic in supporting us with the PR and guests and all things like that. So we've got one more show for International Women's Day, haven't we?
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow for that one. Bye.
Bye.